Hello and welcome to Goobers Workshop. For this episode, we are going to talk about lighting and shading. Beep. So, let me quickly draw a little guy real quick. Okay, so we've got our little guy right here, as you can see. Now, first off, what we want to do is think of the character in a 3D space. So, so instead of thinking, oh, he's 2D, he would have like pillow shading or something like that. We actually have to think of the character as a 3D object. So like how you know how in art you've got the still life art where they teach you that there's a shadow and then there's a little bit of cast light here and then it's brighter on this side because the light's coming from here. That's basically what we're doing for these guys. So let's say I want the light source to be coming from here, and also how far away you want the light source, how small you want the light source, impacts the lighting and the way you want to, do it. So let's say this is a foreground sun. It's casting moderate rays onto our character here. Now, before I teach you specific shading, I'm going to teach you how to block out your shading. So, if the lighting is coming more from the foreground like this, there's going to be a lot less shading in the front than it would be if the light source was from here, like in the background. So let's so because the head is a 3D object, you wrap around the object like this. And of course there's going to be a little bit of shadow right here. And because this is further away from the point, this would also be shaded. This would also be shaded. And, so on and so forth. And it also you also have to think about, would the object on top of this object cast a shadow? So because this is head, it would be casting a shadow this way because it's on top, it's above this object and it's casting its shadow onto the object. Same with the body on the legs. It would be casting a slight shadow, and yeah, so that's basically how you block out shadows. And just imagining it in a 3D space really helps with this. So knowing this, let's pick a color for our little guy to be in. I'm gonna pick this pink. Okay, now that we've colored him in, we've got to We've got to figure out what kind of color we want the lights and shadows to be. Because this is a sun, the color is more likely to be a yellow. The light color is going to be more like a yellow, orangey, that kind of thing. So let's say from this color that we have for the skin tone, we're going to shift it more into the warmer sides, and oh, that doesn't look good. And oop, no. Ugh. Make sure it's more lighter than your skin color. So how I specifically like to do it in specifically my thumbnails and my quote-unquote official art is I do like to start out with the shadows first, because that helps me personally to figure out where the light would be coming from. So knowing this, let's get our color for the skin tone again. And because the sun is a warm color, the shadows are also going to be warm. The only time you mix warm and cold light and shadows is when there's multiple light sources in a scene. Okay, now that we've got our basic shadow in, we are going to do something that is not really required if you don't want it to be, but it's basically shadows don't encompass the whole shadow bit. Of course, there's going to be darker bits of a shadow and there's going to be lighter bits of a shadow, and around the rim of an object there is also normally light, because light bounces off of a lot of things. So even though it's a dark area of our object, it's still going to have light around the back. Of course, this is completely optional, it's just how I like to do it, and in my opinion it makes shadows look a lot better. Now we go on to the lights, the light source. So what I like doing is essentially the same thing as the shadow, but in a lesser extent and on the opposite side. So let's say we'll have that much, but this much won't be shown. Now, see, this looks a lot better than what we started off with, which is flat color. Now, obviously, you don't have to shade this way. An alternative way to shading would be to airbrush it. Now, I understand that airbrushing isn't what people really like. People don't really like the airbrush aesthetic, but it can be really useful, especially when you're starting out. I personally just prefer not to use it because it's not my style of shadow, and that's 100% fine. You have to experiment and find what's best for you as an artist. That's what the fun in art is all about. Now, here it is. Now, if this looks a little early 2000s-y, this is because early 2000s artists and cartoons, specifically digital ones, really liked the whole airbrushing effect. Now, another alternative you can take, but it isn't really recommended is pillow shading. And in my opinion, I don't really like pillow shading. Pillow shading's not for me, but it's basically where you just shadow on all the edges of an object. And now, pillow shading is also commonly seen in Minecraft skins, and I am also someone who pillow shades Minecraft skins. So, yeah, it depends on context and how you're using it. A lot of people do not like how pillow shading looks. But I think it's fine. Especially if it's done in a proper way. Unlike what I'm doing, which is really rushed. Now, the reason why I wouldn't recommend this, especially if you're trying to improve on your perspective and your art, everything, it doesn't really tell you where the light is coming from, because it basically, what pillow shading is, it's light coming from the viewer's perspective that's really harsh and it's on all of the subject. And this is why a lot of quote unquote veterans of art will tell younger artists to not pillow shade, because it kind of prevents you from improving on your perspective and your shading skills, because it doesn't let you experience airbrushing or all this where it's a perspective of light and stuff like that. Another thing that you can do is when you want to shade the ground, some people take let's duplicate this, and some people take their already colored piece and well, that's not what I wanted. Anyways, as I was saying, a lot of people just like to copy what they've done for their normal piece and just copy it onto the ground. That's well and good, but sometimes you get these weird gaps, like here. Those are some weird gaps, and you gotta cover them up. Well, it's good in a lot of situations, but if you want to freehand it, that's also totally okay. I personally enjoy freehanding it because I like, doing stuff in different ways. But basically, stick with the ground. Stick with the flat surface that you've made. Try and go with the flow, and make sure that you've got all the pieces. Now, this is really lazy, but yeah. And because the light is coming from the foreground, there's going to be a lot of a shadow in the background. And that basically makes it look like it's casting a shadow, while also having shadows casted on it, and a light source coming from it. Now, what I want you all to do is the classic shade an object thing, but I want you to do an apple, a circle, and a cylinder. And if you really if you really want to excel, make your own character, or draw your own character, and pick from a light source of foreground, background, and I want you to also maybe 2 light sources, maybe a really close-up light. And to add on to this, look at references. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have shaded a apple, a circle, a bowl, and a cylinder. Have a look at those pieces. Don't add them to your canvas. Just look at them. And then copy them from your memory. If it's too hard to copy from memory, of course you can add them to your canvas and copy them, but don't trace them. I want you to do this by yourself. That is your task, to do an apple, a ball, and a cylinder. And choose any one of these. You don't have to do all of them. You can choose to only do one, but it will be amazing if you could draw at least foreground and background. These are 2 that I would really like to see from you guys. And you don't have to do your own character. That's only if you want to try it with your own character. But yeah, that's basically it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Yeah, I hope it helped. And just remember, I am not a professional. I only do this as a hobby, and I am self-taught. So, but I have a lot of experience, and I hope this helps you in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Toodles!